Привет, шлюхи! Today I will be reviewing Welcome to Dead House by R.L. Stine. This is his first book in the original Goosebumps series. I will first give a summary of the book, and then I'll rate the plot, the characters, the spookiness, the monsters, and my overall enjoyment of the story itself, and then at the end I will give my final rating. With that, let's get right into it. The main character of the story is Amanda, who is about 12 years old. She has a younger brother Josh, a dog named Petey, as well as a mom and dad. I don't think they ever get names throughout the book. But the story starts with the family moving into a new house because apparently the dad's great uncle died and left it to him in the will, even though the dad doesn't know who his great uncle is. That's already suspicious. And then we find out that the dad decided to move the family because he wanted to leave his old job in order to focus on his writing career. So we are already starting off with questionable decision making by the parents in this book. Once they get there to tour the house, Petey the dog starts growling and barking at the realtor, whose name is Mr. Dawes. And after that, Amanda sees a spooky boy in her room, and Petey runs away until the family finds him in the local cemetery. So something definitely seems off about this house. But the family still doesn't move in for another few weeks, so first they head back home. But once they come back, Amanda sees the same boy in her window from before. She tells her family, but no one believes her, and then when she goes to explore her room, she hears giggles, which she thinks were caused by an open window. Later that night, Amanda even has a nightmare that she and the rest of her family are all dead, and their bodies are decaying. In the book, it gets graphic. She even describes how their faces have all fallen off, and how their bodies are rotting. It's gross. Pretty much some more creepy stuff happens, but then the next day, Amanda and Josh go for a walk with Petey. As they're heading up to the old school, they meet this kid named Ray. Amanda recognizes him as the boy that she saw in the house earlier, but he denies it and just says that he used to live in that house. But Petey starts growling at Ray, so something is off about him as well. Ray takes Josh and Amanda to the playground behind the school, where they meet a group of other kids. One of their names is Karen Somerset, and she also tells him that she used to live in their house. So the kids have apparently moved into Harlett House because it's had the whole town inside of it. Then the kids all go to the old playground to play baseball, and Amanda and Josh play with them for the next couple of weeks, until one day Petey goes missing during one of their games. They look around for him, but they have no luck finding him, and he isn't at their house either. Their parents aren't much help because they end up going to a potluck that one of their neighbors invited them to. So later that night, Josh shows up in Amanda's room and tells her that they should look for Petey in the cemetery because that's where he ran to the first time that they saw the house. Josh grabs a halogen flashlight and the two make their way to the cemetery. On the way there, they run into Ray again, who claims that he had trouble sleeping. He also keeps trying to discourage the kids from going to the cemetery to the point where Amanda just finds him really annoying. Once the kids are inside the cemetery, they find an old amphitheater at the edge of it, and Ray tells them that the town hosts meetings there. The kids then see Petey, but he stinks, and he doesn't seem to recognize them. The kids start to chase the dog through the cemetery in order to catch it, and then Amanda stumbles onto a grave. When she reads the name on it, she realizes that it belongs to Karen Somerset, who was one of the kids that she and Josh played baseball with. Amanda freaks out and starts reading the other names on the graves and sees that they belong to all the other kids that they played baseball with, including Ray. Then Ray finds her and finally admits to her that he and the other kids are dead, and that they killed Petey because dogs can always tell when someone is dead. Ray also tells Amanda that he is the Watcher, and that his job was to watch the family and keep them from going into the cemetery and finding out about the town's secret too early. Ray then goes to kill Amanda, but then Josh shows up and shines his halogen flashlight at him. This causes him to start melting. The book describes it in graphic detail as well because his skin is melting off, his eyeballs are rolling out of his head. It is brutal. Now that Josh successfully committed his first murder, the kids run home to tell their parents about it, but they still haven't come back from the potluck. However, Karen Somerset and the other dead kids, they're in there, and they corner the two while Karen decides to drop some more lore onto them. She explains how the town apparently only needs new blood once a year, and each new family moves into the exact same house. The whole great uncle leaving the house and the will thing from the beginning of the book is an elaborate scheme that they do in order to get desperate and gullible families to move in. Which, of course, but then Josh and Amanda are saved from getting brutalized when Mr. Dawes, who is the realtor from earlier in the book, just comes to the house and gets them. He tells them that he was at the potluck with their parents when they were attacked by their undead neighbors and were barely able to escape. He then tells the kids that he hid the parents at the amphitheater in the cemetery, and then he drops the kids there off as well. So at this point, I don't know how the kids haven't put two and two together, but then Josh sees Petey in the cemetery and starts chasing him again because Amanda still hasn't told him that he's dead. And then as he's chasing him, he trips on a grave, and it turns out it belongs to Mr. Dawes, which that's the same plot twist from before. Then Mr. Dawes shows up, and he's like, "Here you go, children, have some more lore." He tells them that there was a plastic factory on the edge of town, but then one day there was an accident, and a yellow fog billowed over the town until it turned everyone into the undead. Now that the lore drop is complete, Josh throws his flashlight at Mr. Dawes and hits him in the head, and while he's distracted, the kids run away. While they hide, they see the whole town quickly heading towards the old amphitheater. The kids then sneak over to a big old tree that's overhanging the amphitheater and protecting it from the sunlight. They can see their parents tied up below, and most of the town is filling the seats. Amanda decides that they should push the old tree over, so she and Josh kick and push at it till it falls over and the whole amphitheater is bathed in sunlight. All the townspeople start melting and dying below. Amanda sees Karen Somerset as her hair falls off and her eyeballs roll out of her skull, and apparently she wanted to die because she thanks Amanda with her dying words, which, you could have just done that yourself, just step out into the sun, babes. Anyway, now that the kids have successfully committed genocide, they free their parents and then the whole family quickly packs up their things to leave. As they're leaving, Amanda sees a new family pulling into their house, and then she thinks she sees Mr. Dawes waiting to greet them by the door. And that's how the book ends. Now that we have covered the plot, it is time for my review. I will be scoring the book in 5 different categories, and at the end, I will combine them for my overall rating of this book. The first thing I will be scoring is the plot. Overall, I love the story. The idea of a family moving into a town full of the dead is already very creepy for a children's book, and I thought the atmosphere was great, and the initial graveyard reveal scene was very effective, because I still remember that scene, and I first read this book in middle school. However, I had to take some points off mostly because of the ending. I thought the whole thing with the new family moving in right as Amanda and her family were leaving was strange, since it was only supposed to be a yearly ritual, and then Amanda potentially seeing Mr. Dawes at the end made even less sense because he died in the amphitheater along with everyone else. Also, what was up with Mr. Dawes creating the whole scheme in order to get Josh and Amanda to the graveyard after they found out about the town? He and the dead kids could have just tied them up and taken them to the amphitheater, but then instead he pretended he was normal, and then he just kinda revealed himself when the kids accidentally stumbled onto his grave. It was just weird, and I feel like R.L. Stine could have written a much better reveal for him, especially since the gravestone one had already been used earlier. I mostly just wish the ending felt less rushed. The setup and rising action was very good, but since Goosebumps books aren't that long, by the time we got to the ghost reveal, we were already practically 3/4 of the way through the book. If the reveal had happened sooner and the ending was less anticlimactic and rushed, this would have been a really great story. Overall, I still really like the plot, but because of some weird inconsistencies and pacing choices at the end, I will be giving it 3.5 stars. The next thing I will be rating is the characters. I honestly didn't really like many of the characters. I thought Amanda was cool, and I liked Karen, but everyone else was either boring or just annoying. Josh in particular was pretty annoying throughout most of the book, and the dad was not much better. Ray as a character just sucked because he completely failed at his job, and then he got murdered by 2 children, who even assigned him as the Watcher because I think they were just trying to get everyone killed. Same thing goes for Mr. Dawes, because maybe if he wasn't busy putting on performances and elaborate schemes, then Josh and Amanda wouldn't have been able to kill everyone. Overall, there just isn't that much to say about the characters, so I will give them a 3 out of 5. The next rating is spookiness. I thought this was pretty scary for a kid's book. The tone throughout was very serious, and there was a legitimate threat of death to the main characters. Not to mention, the family dog actually died, which could definitely scar some kids, and even adults. Another aspect was how detailed and gory some of the body horror was. I did not remember the multiple face melting scenes, and it caught me off guard reading them now. They were graphic, and even though it was technically happening to ghosts, they were still kids that were getting microwaved. Very solid spooks, 5 out of 5. The next thing I will be scoring is how iconic and scary the monsters in the story are. The monsters in this book are the dead townspeople, and I think that they're pretty cool. They have some decently interesting lore behind them, and the yearly ritual of getting a family to move into the same house and then stalking them while taking a month to prepare whatever feeding ritual that they have is a fun idea. However, they definitely get some points off for being very easy to kill. I mean, Josh and Amanda wiped out the whole town in less than a minute at the end. It was also a bit confusing as to what the townspeople's abilities actually were. It seemed like they were some kind of vampire, but could also appear and disappear like ghosts. I figured they're just some kind of undead creatures with their own sets of rules, but even then, they still didn't seem like much of an actual threat once Josh and Amanda went on the offensive. Overall, I would rate The Undead Townspeople a 3 out of 5. My final rating category is overall enjoyment of the book itself. How did it hold up for me personally? And I love this book. It's iconic, it's the first Goosebumps book, and it's the darkest one. It's genuinely scary. Like, the twist is great, everything is great. Even rereading it now years later, it's still great. So with nostalgia and everything factored in, this is a 4 out of 5 for me. And so with that, my overall rating for Welcome to Dead House is a 3.7 out of 5. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more content in the future.